for some context, for those who don't know, Mars Needs Moms is famously, it's probably still the biggest flop in history. Last time I checked, it was, meaning it cost the most money and lost the most money. And at this point, okay, Mars Needs Moms cost $150 million, made $39 million. Right now, Strange Worlds costs $180 million. And unless it has like a, what, $12, $15 million weekend next weekend, it ain't beating that 39 million.
Yeah.
So it ain't even going to come close. So this is going to be a new biggest flop of all time for Disney.
Yeah, probably. So basically, this is Mars Needs Moms all over again with shades of light here, just to make it perfect.
Yes, and let's not forget about Lightyear. I haven't even compared it to that because I think Lightyear might have beat Mars Needs Moms even. So who knows?
And let's not forget about John Carter either, that Andrew Stanton messed up so spectacularly.
Luckily,
yes,
John Carter managed
to. For that.
The thing is with John Carter is I think it cost that much more, but it at least managed to make like close to 300 million. The difference was being it just didn't make enough to constitute continuing the series. That's kind of where that was.
And interestingly, that movie was actually made by Pixar director Andrew Stanton using the Pixar School of Filmmaking, which is why it was so expensive as it was. So, yeah, there's definitely an animation theme in the flops going on here. That and Disney.
Yeah, for sure.
Lightyear luckily did closer to like John Carter numbers. Okay. Because Lightyear cost 200 million and made 226. So it didn't make any money actually, but it's not going to be as harshly. It's not going to be as big of a deal as this.
It's $100 million underwater.
And then people also bring up the Lone Ranger, which is up there. I know that one's like the third or fourth one. Their box office for Lone Ranger was 260 with a budget of 250. So yeah. That's what I'm saying. At least those movies made about half their money. This movie's not even going to make half its money.
You know, and if you're a big company, if you're the size of Disney, you can weather, you know, the occasional like catastrophic performance. You can't do that multiple times a year. It's not good.
And the only person here who's seen it is Chris. But anyway, go ahead, Andre. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, yeah, you can weather the occasional bump, but here's like the thing. Which thing has Disney had that has overperformed this year compared to what has underperformed?
Nothing.
Versus everything. Everything has underperformed or bombed, which was the case with both Lightyear and now Strange Worlds. I'm so tempted to say Star Trek Strange Worlds.
That Spider-Man money might have helped a little bit, but I don't think they made that much off it. But now,
yeah, but that was last year's. That was last year's money.
Technically, you're right. Yes. Here's the kicker, though. I think they're going to have some issues with the Avatar, but we'll get into that in just a few minutes. I want to ask Chris what he thought of Strange Worlds before we go too far beyond that.
Yes, do share.
Well, I saw Strange World. And I think it's one of the worst things ever put out by Disney Animation Studios. The story, because it's really hard to glean a story from the trailer, which, by the way, I saw incessantly every time I went to the movies. I know people have complained that the film was not properly promoted. That is false. The trailer ran constantly at theaters. It was even... if you watch ESPN, one of those lower thirds where they promote a movie sort of at the bottom of the screen. So I believe it didn't get any more nor less promotion than any typical Disney animation release. But it's what it is, frankly, is like one of the teachers that you would see featured on Libs of TikTok wrote a script for a movie, and then they just made that movie. This is just how god awful this thing is. where I gotta look up because I want to make sure to get the names right. I know that Jake Gyllenhaal plays the main.
Jake Gyllenhaal is the only one I know. Yeah, I was gonna say good luck on the
Plays
rest.
he plays the father, but it's the Clade family, right? So Jake Gyllenhaal plays Searcher Clade. His wife is Meriden Clade, and it's Dennis Quaid plays Jaeger Clade, who is this incredibly manly man of action hero, quick with a weapon, and brave beyond, and then Searcher has a son. He's in a relationship. He is white character. His white wife Meridian Clade is black, and they have a mixed race son named Ethan Clade, who is pining and has butterflies in his stomach over the boy that he has a crush on. So, so that's part of it. So he's a teenager, has a crush on this boy. There's something going on in their world, and they go into travel into this mountainous cavern to discover why this plant that Searcher brought back, which is basically a power source for this a utopian society. Literally in the first minutes, you meet Searcher and Meriden and their mixed race son, who's gay and has this crush on a boy. They have a dog that is disabled, is missing, his front paws, like doesn't have that. Then you see someone in a wheelchair. It's like this, like it's like the again, like a Libs of TikTok teacher wrote this script. It's just everything under the rainbow for everybody. The president of this land is a woman of, sort of unspecified ethnic descent. So, because of this threat, they travel into whatever this. It's sort of a dollar store Dr. Seuss is what it looks like. It's not particularly. I mean, if you've seen the trailer, it's just sort of like, wait, this is it? What is it? Are they on another planet? Did they travel here? I thought they traveled in a spaceship just from watching the trailer. I'm like, oh, that's really weird. They must have come there in a spaceship. And no, it's just sort of the interior of this planet. But the whole thing is just like this incredible indictment of toxic masculinity, because the young boy, Ethan Clade, in this scene, they very explicitly spell it out. He's sitting there and they're playing a card game. The point of the card game is for everyone to come together and solve this problem. But of course, Searcher and his dad, Jaeger Clade, let's solve it with violence. Like, where's the guns? Let's do this. And it's like, no, those kind of games are lame. And of course, the son ends up saving the day and figuring everything out when no one else could. But it's god awful. I mean, obviously, it's an hour 48 minutes or something, so it's over 90 minutes. Not going to hold a kid's attention span. Teenagers are going to think it's lame, and it's just interesting when you look at Disney's history, right? When you look at that, this is a movie that features, and look, I don't have any problem with gay characters in films at all. I just feel like when it's sort of projected, it's like this thing where they're sort of loudly telling you, hey, look what we have. We have this gay, where it's just like, it doesn't even matter to the story, right? But I felt as I was watching it in the theater with all of 6 other people that I felt like, wow, and like there were parts where Alan Ng, my co-conspirator over at Film Threat, was saying someone was sitting behind them. There was a little boy, had to be like 10 years old, and every time any sort of the subject of the gay character came up in his journey, the father would talk to his son to kind of distract him so he wouldn't see it, right? Didn't want his 10-year-old necessarily to be exposed to this, but finally come to the conclusion, when you look at everything that Disney has produced, has had some kind of inclusion of gay characters, right? Some in ways that can be distracting and some not so much. We had America Chavez and Doctor Strange, obviously Thor, just everything. everything that Disney has done or been a part of. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. It's in everything. And it's at the point where just like, my kids are not single digit age, but I would not trust, after all, I just would not trust Disney as a brand to take a young child to a film. I wouldn't trust them. I even suggested on a Film Threat livecast on Friday, which, please check it out. I had a whole rant on, like, I just think at this point, Disney needs to just spin off a separate brand. I feel like families that just want to be entertained, Disney should go back to making those movies. Like your 90s 2D animated musical features, I think are classics. They're all classics for a reason. They're broad appeal, and you can sit there and enjoy it, right? But they just need to do a separate brand to call it Disney Sparkle and just have it be all gay stuff. I mean, all the characters are gay, as gay as you could possibly get. Make sure that there are princesses and princes, and they're not all
But that makes it harder to groom, Chris.
right.
Well,
So
Chris,
being facetious, obviously.
is this separate studio entity headed up by Eichner, Billy Eichner?
Yeah, no, it's going to be headed up by is everyone who wants that stuff in mainstream Disney stuff that appeals to, that would appeal to
Rainbow Disney.
Yeah, just call it Rainbow or Disney Sparkle or whatever you want to call it. And just seriously, I don't think there's, and first of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that actually would be a smart move to do that, because look, I've been covering independent film since I was a kid. And so none of these themes like surprise me, right? What surprises me is that they're being included in more broad and mainstream entertainment for families. That is surprising and shocking. Look, I've seen gay themed films since forever.
Yeah.
They're big hits at art houses and film festivals, and it is a limited market. And what Disney has been doing is they've been infusing themes that appeal to a limited market and putting it in mainstream entertainment. And the failed box office of this film Strange World should be an indicator that these ideas do not resonate, and the audience that supports those ideas won't even support the film. So what you do, spin off a label, call it Disney Sparkle, make it super gay. Everything is just gay all day, right? And just, cartoons, you got a little logo that's at the beginning. It says Disney Sparkle. You know what you're in for. And you as a parent can make an informed decision and decide, do I want to expose my kids to this? And you can choose whether to or not.
Or how about you just not put sexuality in Disney movies, period? But
that would be great. But what I'm saying is to placate people within your company that may be a thing, and then it either succeeds or fails based on its own merits. But you know what you're getting into. If you go see something from Disney Sparkle, that you know what you're going to get, and then that's fine.
So you want to launch like a Groom Disney, right?
right.
And you want to basically create a WNBA for those particular types of projects.
That would be the idea. It would literally be like the WNBA, where they're overspending to try and make it a thing, and nobody cares about the WNBA.
Okay.
So I happen to know that the team is the LA Sparks. So there you go. But what I'm saying is then you can actually see it's like, okay, let's do this. Let's put a pause on these things that are turning off parents. Our primary demographic, as much as there are Disney adults, right? Like that is a real thing. Primarily family entertainment. Let's segment it off. Let's segment the audience, and that will either succeed or fail. And then you actually get to see it. Now, I just know from having covered independent film for a long time that independent films are made for very little money, and then they make very little money. And look, 18 million to a small indie movie is huge. If you make that indie movie for $1 million and it makes 18 million at the box office, huge success. So
Oh.
you need to scale this to the audience that supports it, right? You need to scale it. I mean, even when I did this movie years ago called My Big Fat Independent Movie, and I just looked at like, well, how much money do spoof films? It's a parody movie of independent films. How much money do those make? Let's not make the movie for more than X amount of dollars so that we can at least make money. And we made money. They paid us more for the rights to it than we made it for. So profitable. And I don't understand. Hollywood seems to have lost all sense in this, where to me, it's just a very simple equation. And the equation for success for every entertainment property is very different. It's very different to get to success, but there needs to be more. I hate to say this, just bean counters behind the scenes going, we really should make this movie for X amount because the market is this. The market is really this. And unless we get, we're not going to get 100% of the market that this is targeting. So,
No, you're right, but unfortunately, there's a lot of different types of bean counters. There's those that say, well, if you spend X amount, it's going to make exactly this amount, and that X amount usually happens to be $100 million plus. And then there's the others that are saying you don't need to spend $100 million if you want to make money off of this type of movie. And those two are at odds. And the reason they're at odds is because you have a lot of executives who are thinking, well, if the budget's $100 million or plus, that means more money for me during the production cycle. And it also gives them the potential to make more money on the back end through whatever other deals that they score. So they want that bigger paycheck up front. And that's basically counter to something that's good for the survivability of the studio, where they're making very affordable films of high quality that have a high return.
Right.
The high return comes much later than when they want it. And that's one of the issues.
Well, the problem with studios, the major studios, they don't know how to make things for cheap. And it's not as if those studios, like something like an A24, which is a division of Warner Brothers, a lot of the things that A24 releases are acquired. So they're films that are produced independently, financed and produced. A lot of overseas money or just sort of creative, putting together funding sources from a lot of different places. The movie is made, then debuts on the festival circuit, and something like an A24 distribution company will come in and acquire that film. So it's made without the top heaviness of a studio, right? And I just think that announcing that there's a couple things by announcing, say, a Disney Sparkle brand supporting LGBTQ plus projects, how that like solves a lot of problems. One, there's transparency about like how successful these things are and what the market really is, because I think it's way overrepresented what people think the market is for that. In addition, it kind of makes people within the Disney company happy. And then I think it would restore trust in the Disney brand, that if I'm going to go see a Disney family movie, it's a Disney family movie. I'm not having to have uncomfortable conversations with my 9-year-old about what's going on in this film, right? It's played off fairly innocently, but at the same time, like, I feel very fortunate because my kids didn't have to go through this. They're the things that they watched when they were kids. None of these things were ever really an issue, or it was underneath the surface, like C-3PO or Dr. Smith from the original Lost in Space, which are clearly very gay characters.
Oh, Christopher Gore, I think we need to talk about your bigotry.
Wow.
I'm just saying, who cares? I think that from a financial standpoint, they would be wise.
It's problematic.
It would placate people within the company. Then you actually see it either fails or succeeds based on its merits, and also puts a little bit more pressure to succeed. $180 million budget for this. Who read the script? And by the way, this thing must have been well into production when Iger was in charge.
Oh yeah, it was.
I was about to say, you asked who read the script and gave it green light. That would be Bob Iger.
Yep.
Or maybe someone read it to him, or he just read the
Someone
cover.
read it to him. Yeah.
He read coverage.
Yeah,
He
okay,
read
fine.
coverage.
Someone read it to him. But
I'm
anyway,
just saying,
he knew the contents, and Bob Iger approved of it.
I just think it's mind-boggling and shows how out of touch, completely out of touch, the Hollywood elites are with your average moviegoer, right? They can't even predict they can't figure out what budget really suits a particular type of film based on the market. And part of this, I think, part of the reason for the failure of this is not only was the trailer didn't really tell you much about it. I thought they went to outer space. I didn't know what was going on. You know, they're on a weird planet. Okay, it was.
They're not in outer space.
No, they're not in outer space. I mean, I could give it away if you
Yeah, go for it. No, go,
Yeah, go for
Okay,
it.
Everyone
so-
here is going to go see it.
No, is everyone cool with spoilers? Everyone this is your spoiler warning.
I'm sure we
So-
can throw like a spoiler warning in the off chance that one or two of the 2,000 watching doesn't want spoilers, but
Here's a
yeah.
spoiler.
So the
I've always
movie-
been gay. I'm a bear running around without pants. That's nothing.
Actually, that's more just a indecent exposure. But if you want to see
Well-
a better movie where Dennis Quaid is the father to Jake Gyllenhaal, there's The Day After Tomorrow.
Oh, that's true. I remember that. That was great.
No, I don't think anybody's worried about spoilers because not only that, isn't this movie coming to? Didn't they already announce it's coming to Disney Plus fairly early? Culture.
This should have
Oh.
gone direct to streaming. This
Well,
Yeah, I
okay,
think it's going to be there in like a few weeks or whatever before
it's,
Christmas.
yeah, it's not that far away from it. And here's the thing: the argument that's being made right now, Chris, and this is one you're going to appreciate, is that they couldn't take it directly to streaming because that would have been a gut kick to all of the people that worked on the film, and it would show that the company is backing down on its radical gay agenda.